Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this breakout session of the third Virtual Interconnection Days, organized by Analytics. My name is Patrick Whisker, and I will be your moderator. Um, the way this breakout session is structured is everybody can ask questions in the chat during the session, and if the situation allows it, I will ask these questions to the guest speaker. Additionally, we have a Q&A at the end, so everybody is able to ask questions after the presentation also. At 4:05, we will wrap up, and we will go to Mibo, which is our virtual meeting environment, Winter Wonderland. Our guest speaker will also be there, and you have time to meet other people attending this event. And now I'm very excited to introduce to you our guest speaker, Oliviana Bailey. Oliviana leads the development of EscherCloud community and ecosystem, including the launch of the AI Lab, formerly head of community at Rockstart and ING's Open Innovation District, Cumulus Park. Oliviana has built and scaled communities across sectors successfully, bringing startups, corporates, governments, and talent together to collaborate and innovate. The topic of today is artificial intelligence, AI. AI has become synonymous with digital transformation and innovation. But what can it really do? How will it affect and be affected by internet connectivity? Oliviana will take you into the world of AI and show the possibilities and challenges that comes along with this technology. Without further ado, Oliviana, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Patrick. And hi, nice to meet everyone. I'll pull up my slides to present really quick. Okay. So for who don't know EscherCloud, we are combining cutting-edge data center construction industry solutions to create powerful, secure, and sustainable compute. We're integrated within a sustainable technology hubs. Our liquid-cooled GPUs are powered by renewable energy and recover heat, providing circular energy for offices, homes, and cities. So why AI? Well, our mission is to accelerate sustainable AI to protect our planet's future by building the most sustainable high-performance compute. For us, we believe that our future on planet Earth depends on human life, the natural world, and the digital economy sustainably coexisting. By revolutionizing the energy consumption of data processing, EscherCloud creates the climate-positive results that benefit all three. So we can dive a little bit into today's session on what is AI. So maybe for those in the chat, what would you describe AI? Like, what's your current knowledge of AI?
So people can type in the chat, and I will, yeah, Oliviana, you can also, of course, read. So
yes,
yeah, no problem. Yeah, in the chat. Okay. So does everybody have a description about artificial intelligence? What does it say to you personally? Michael says automated learning. Like machine learning, maybe, Oliviana?
Possibly, though it's actually quite a step ahead. So I'll explain some of the components of AI in a second, but I'd love to just hear what everyone else thinks.
So yours?
We have someone who understands the basics of the neural networks.
Yeah. Anybody else who has, oh, Vinny.
Yep, a lot of data.
Oh, there we go. So,
okay.
Onno, big data analysis, decision making on the big data.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's into what the basics are then. I think a lot of people kind of touched the high-level overview, but the basics is that this is a computational technologies that are inspired by the ways people use their ability to sense, learn, reason, and take action. AI apps aim to solve specific problems or take actions within a limited set of parameters, some which may be unknown and some to be discovered, learned by computer-based technologies through learning, reasoning, and self-correction. So when we look at the terminology of artificial intelligence, it's actually quite a really large umbrella. There's quite a few subcategories that really make up AI. Right now, a lot of people are using AI and machine learning synonymously, but they're actually different subsets. So within machine learning, you have deep learning, which is supervised and unsupervised. Most machine learning actually that's taking place at the moment is actually supervised because the technology itself isn't actually there yet to do it unsupervised. Then you have natural language processing. So this is kind of a lot of text generation, question answering. You often find this with chatbot technologies. You have your vision, so that's image recognition and machine vision. Speech, so that's speech to text and text to speech. Planning and robotics are also fall under these, and they're kind of subcategories of artificial intelligence. They are made up of different algorithms and require different data sets to really be able to train the models.
Okay, interesting. So do you also think that there will be more disciplines like these ones in the future? Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I think that within these, there's already like very niche subcategories, and you're already seeing a lot of consultancy and startups coming within each of these kind of broader ranges of the technology. So look at artificial intelligence as just another tool like blockchain. It's useful only based off of the data and parameters that you're giving it at the moment. So we're not talking like it's going to be, you know, we're not at Terminator level kind of self-learning for the technology. So it's still really just a tool that can be applied. And it still requires a lot of learning on behalf of the user. So there's a lot of technologies actually currently looking at how to democratize AI so that the in-depth knowledge isn't needed at the moment.
Okay, and can you describe expert systems? What does it do?
Yeah, so for example, one of the startups that we work with, well, startup is maybe not accurate scale up. They are called RoboVision. So they are creating systems in which users can have a more basic UX to understand how to use and train their models. So it's a system like where you would upload all your data images and train the model. So kind of setting the shape of like, okay, this is an apple, and you shape it around the image and can label it. Because actually a lot of the training is really about labeling data. That's actually one of the big challenges to AI at the moment is data labeling. It's quite intensive, and that's where right now a lot of companies are having to invest in a lot of data scientists to prepare those sets.
Okay, and where does internet connectivity plays a part in this diagram?
Yeah, so I say the main thing that to understand with AI is the training and the internet connectivity. There is when you need to move your algorithm through the different data to different data sets. So I'll kind of dive into that later on about those challenges. But let me just tell you a little bit more about some of the applications within AI first. So as I mentioned, some of the applications that the technologies are, when you look at our partner NVIDIA, we see that conversational AI, like their Jarvis is a common tool that is used. This would be kind of the NLP application. Recommender systems like Merlin are quite common right now, and they often require a lot of analytics. Smart city, that's often AI that's looking at logistics, planning, just understanding like next actions. Then healthcare, a lot of this we see the vision applications. So the tool Clara, it maps out a lot of the diagnostics within imaging. Robotics, so this kind of combines a bit of the vision and like process of movement. Then you have autonomous vehicles, again, very heavy on vision, and same with aerial. They're really vision heavy.
Okay.
So I guess my question is to the audience, are you using AI at the moment within your business?
Who is using AI? Frederick says every day. And how are you using it, Frederick?
Yeah.
Typing. So maybe if you Google, you have the search engine, it uses algorithms. Is that AI? Not really. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so without knowing, a lot of people are. Cool. Yes, well, so obviously a lot of the applications that we're currently using in our personal lives are probably using some form of AI, but even within our business functions, we're still kind of behind the curve there. So let's kind of talk about the rise of AI. So we've seen it's kind of become a huge hype at the moment. The rise of AI has been fueled by the development of cloud computing technology, solutions providing digital economy, managing large volumes of data, and the demand for access to new service products requested by customers and service providers. So the more people go digital and are more interactive than they were before, AI really is a good fit for that. But still, only about 50% of companies are reported to have adopted AI in one of their business functions. So it's still a growing technology, and it's still kind of in its infancy of what it can do. So I think the best way to describe it is we're kind of still at the toddler level with artificial intelligence, where you are still most of the applications that are being used right now require training it. So I think the future of AI will definitely change significantly over the next couple of years. It's kind of an exponential growth. So we're definitely not at kind of an Ultron age technologies as much as the movies want us to worry about AI taking over your work. It's actually being used more so in terms of how enabling us to actually think and kind of getting away from those kind of annoying tasks that you would have to do on a daily basis. So that's kind of where AI is stepping in more as a tool and not something that's going to replace the workforce. So some examples of how AI is transforming industry. So the Technical University of Munich was using AI within fighting the coronavirus by mapping millions of proteins for drug discovery. It really helps speed up the process. Facebook's currently using it, and actually most users on Facebook prefer chatbot responses to human responses. Probably the quickness and the practicalities. And then within IoT, you can also see that cost savings by using AI have significantly reduced the risk of outages at General Electric. So are you guys working with or collaborating with others on AI? So this is really within your business functions. Have you started talking with outside companies to implement AI, like consulting or buying AI applications that could be implemented into your business functions?
Interesting question. So let's see what the people have to say. Michael doesn't know. So people, are you working with, collaborating with others on AI? Stefan.
So,
Yes, Stefan was talking earlier, Oliviana, about a trial, anomaly alerting. Do you know about that? Anomaly alerting?
yeah, there's definitely a lot of applications out there for anomaly alerting, depending on the industry you're in. I've seen startups that are doing it like for bridges, but even within telco, you can already see like the outages, and this really plays into connectivity. So yeah, anomaly alerting is a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's just talk a little bit about that. So actually right now there's a few different stages that kind of enterprise is going through in terms of AI adoption. So you often have that kind of exploring AI, testing it, much like Stephen might be doing within his organization. So it's probably still the technology is siloed within kind of one business function and maybe only looking at one way of it being applied. Then you have other corporates that have made the step to actually being engaged, identifying the areas AI could actually be used within your organization, and have kind of looked at different use cases and models that they can apply. Then there's there's a few that have really kind of made their way up to committed. So this is where they're kind of looking at a vision of AI being a transformation agent. And it's embedded into leadership decision making. So this is really where you see businesses that say that they're data driven would probably be looking at having an AI vision. And then finally, AI at your core. This is kind of where we see most data natives actually really existing rather than your typical enterprise dinosaurs really being at the moment. So they kind of see that the use of data across the entire organization is actually implementing in different frameworks.
Okay. Do we have got some percentages? Like how many percent of corporates are at the exploring stage, or?
I don't have percentages on off the top of my head, but I'd say that when you look at this, there's kind of the very few with AI at the core. This is kind of the current industry leaders really having that. Like if you look at like Tesla, and the corporates that have really committed will be kind of the next industry leaders. This is also kind of where we see some data natives really stepping up the game for those. But we see most, I'd say about 50 to 75% of corporates kind of really falling in the exploring and engaged area.
Okay.
At the moment.
And you mentioned Tesla. This is because of autonomous driving, or?
Yeah, so most of their business is not only the products that they're selling are having artificial intelligence, but if you even look within their usage of the workforce, they're already applying a lot of different techniques for AI to be applied. So I'd say that it's really embedded in the core of what they're doing, their decision making, and analytics, even within the back end of the company, not just the products that they're using. So I think that's sometimes where people kind of get confused with enterprise adoption of AI, is that it's not just the products of AI that you're using, that you're selling maybe, but the actual in your internal business, how you're using it.
Okay.
So what are some of the challenges to AI at the moment? So one of the biggest ones is adoption. So we see implementation of challenges is quite difficult. Integrating AI into the company's roles and functions. I think this is kind of where people that are not yet comfortable with technology are struggling, especially in senior management. and data issues like privacy and access to data is definitely one of the most difficult. I'd say this is one area that within the EU we see as a big challenge, even for kind of those that are really trying to embed AI at the core. In addition to that, we see the energy consumption of AI as being a huge challenge for the future. So right now we're kind of just at the tip of what AI can do, and how people are using AI is still using CPU technology, and it requires a lot of energy to be consumed. Data centers are also not necessarily using the best techniques for cooling their servers. So it also causes like ground pollution, and it consumes a lot of energy, and it will only exceed even more. So yeah, those are definitely some of the challenges you see there in terms of the technology in itself. But training models, you see ethics being a big play, bias, because most of AI is still being trained. The human bias is also there. So we see that with companies that are training their AI with majority male workforce, their technologies are more biased there. So diversity within teams is an important part within the industry as well. But we're here about interconnectivity. So what are those challenges? So as I was saying earlier, data and geolocation are a huge challenge with AI and the internet. So right now, the way that the EU is set up, especially with the GDPR, we see that data sets, especially like the more personalized data, has to be kind of located within regions. So like if you look at the genomics data that exists at the moment, you have to be training your models with the data in that region that it's based. So moving your algorithms, moving your data sets and training from different geolocations is definitely a big issue at the moment. And that's just for the technologies right now that could be, that's one area of a challenge for when they're being trained kind of in the back end on their own time. But we also see some of the newer applications of AI really requiring low latency, where they need it kind of in real time. And these trainings really need to be done more fast. So not only does the location of the data, but also the compute power that is needed all need to be in the same location and shifted around. So kind of the movement of data is definitely a big part within internet connectivity. And I think the newest buzzword today about AI and the internet would be 5G. I think that's going to be the next buzzword that goes along with AI. So if you look at it, it's really trying to create ultra reliable communication. So some of the applications that are really coming out that really require this is remote surgeries within healthcare, mobility for vehicle communication. So right now the autonomous driving within most cars actually isn't actually able to be at its fullest because of the 5G networks needed. So I know in the States, 5G is really not applicable in all areas compared to, say, Europe. You also see that 5G will play a big part in like the smart grid. So this is the smart city applications where anomaly detection would be an important part where they need to do this in real time. And then also kind of like more of the industrial private networks really requiring this because they're kind of doing it on their own. We also see that industries with a lot of graphics really are requiring lower latency and require a stronger connectivity. So for example, there's a startup right now building a virtual XR cave, and latency is an important part for them in terms of how their user is actually interacting with the virtual stage that they're on. So the training and action of the AI really needs to be as quick as possible for it to actually be able to move like it would if it was an actual real scenery.
So internet connectivity is actually sort of more a condition to move ahead with AI. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'd say that right now in the like kind of baby phase of AI that we're in, it's still internet connectivity is slowly becoming an important part, and we're already seeing like ways around sometimes the latency issues like edge computing, and further devices actually helping support that. So like for example, like the cars having more sensoring. So I think sensoring is still a big area that are working to help with growing this low latency.
Okay. We have some questions about energy saving, but I will keep that for the Q&A. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm actually ready for a Q&A if you are. So
you're at the end of your presentation.
Yeah. I was. I'm happy to chat some more about AI. I can always talk about some more of the use cases that I see.
Great. Okay, so we will now start with the Q&A. We are ending a little bit earlier, but that's of course okay. We can do a little bit longer Q&A if everybody wants that. I already have 2 questions regarding your slide about energy saving, because you mentioned that the energy usage in the future will be a multiple of what we are using now, and this can be a big problem. And so Michel's got the first question. Are you familiar with research taking place at the University of Groningen to develop analog AI chips instead of digital ones to save heavy on energy? So are you seeing initiatives already, about this future problem of increased energy consumption with regard to AI?
Yes, definitely. I think that one of the ways we see that existing. So right now, most AI is actually being trained on CPU technology. So because of the way it's set up, that it won't actually, it takes much longer, requires way more capacity to actually be based there. But it's also a learning curve. Like within the industry, most people don't know how to use GPU technology. Just the kind of infrastructure needed to actually work on it is slightly different. So like if you look at some of the bigger players like Booking.com, like and how they're using AI, they're currently like have about 80,000 CPU servers that could definitely easily be reduced just by switching to GPU technology significantly, helping with energy savings. So that's definitely one step. There's definitely other ways in terms of energy savings that start from both infrastructure, latency, but also optimizing the actual trainings is areas that AI is stepping in. So people are using AI to actually make AI more optimized. So those are some of the fun ways it's being used. I also see that there's a question about quantum computing helping.
From Ono, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know too much about quantum computing at the moment. I think it's still kind of an upcoming technology, but there's definitely a lot of, they definitely require even more compute than AI does. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to help with energy saving, but it would definitely be addressing some of the big data challenges. And I think that the more data that we're collecting nowadays, energy is going to increase. More data to be shared, movement of the data, trainings of the data, that's all a big part of that.
Okay, I have lost your video stream. I'm not sure if other people also are not seeing you anymore, but still see. Okay, no problem. Okay, so do we have other questions from the audience at this moment?
I see
Please
a question about an AI, find this AI tool.
Yeah, does it? Yeah, but so Richard, the AI tool,
Okay.
which one are you mentioning?
Okay. Oh, hold on. I think
Oliviana, do you know?
someone was talking
Yeah.
about another tool that they use for time saving.
Ah, okay. Yeah, some connection, some audio and video issues. I can still, I see you already, and I still have your audio. So it is back. Okay. So let's see if there's some more questions at this moment. And if not, we are going to wrap up and go to another fun part of this session, which will be Winter Wonderland. Oliviana will join us. It is our virtual meeting environment. I will post the link in the chat so everybody knows where to go. It is the direct link to Winter Wonderland. Be sure you use Meebo through Google Chrome, and then it will work out. And I think we will end this session, Oliviana.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun.
Definitely.
I think the topic was also very interesting. There's a lot of people in this channel, so that's the evidence that everybody wants to understand what the AI is about. And thank you very much. And I will see you in Winter Wonderland.
Yeah, see you there.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.